Today, I want to show you how I make soy curls. We're going to be making a beefy version as well as a chicken style. And I've used soy curls a bunch of times on this channel, but I've never made a video for an all-purpose beef or chicken style soy curl that can be used in just about any dish, so here we are. Now, soy curls are basically just dehydrated soy. They are shelf stable and do even better in the freezer or fridge. They have a great shreddy texture and meaty chew, and they will take on any flavor you throw at them. And this isn't a sponsored post, I'm just a big soy curl fan. I get mine direct from Butler Foods, and you can sometimes find them in stores like Besties down here in LA, but online is probably going to be your best bet. They are way too expensive on Amazon if you ask me, so avoid that if possible. And if you don't have access to soy curls, you can use something like these, which are pretty easy to find where I am. I know in other parts of the world there are similar products like TVP or soya chunks, so you can totally use those instead as well. Now first, for any soy curl recipe, you're going to want to start by rehydrating them. And I just use room temperature water. I haven't personally found that cold or hot water make much of a difference in flavor or texture. Oh, and by the way, I am making a big batch of these since they are freezer friendly, but more on that later. And you can rehydrate them in some broth, but for me, the resulting flavor is very mild. And this is fine for the chicken soy curls, as we'll get to later, but for the beefy ones, we need to reduce them down later to infuse a deeper flavor, so using broth is redundant and unnecessary. Speaking of which, after about 10 to 15 minutes, they should be rehydrated. This next step is crucial. We need to squeeze out as much of the liquid as possible. Otherwise, we will have a very soggy soy curl experience, and that is no good at all. I've heard some people tell me that they didn't do this, and that's why they probably hated soy curls. So squeeze out any frustrations you might have. Put on some heavy metal music if that helps. Another step I like to do to dry them out even more is to toast them in a dry pan. I would say you can do this for like 5 to 10 minutes. Just stir them every now and then. You can totally eat one just to test out the texture. If you see some slight browning on them, that's a good sign that you're done. Now let's make the beefy marinade that we're going to flavor our soy curls with. I'm going to start off with 2 cups of vegan beef broth. I really like the Better Than Bouillon brand for this, but use any vegan beef broth you like. If you can't find this, you can also just use some veggie broth. Next, we're going to add in 1 tablespoon of vegan Worcestershire sauce. I have a homemade recipe, but there are a lot of store-bought vegan versions out there too. If you can't find any, you can also use steak sauce, which is typically vegan. Just check the ingredient label if you're unsure. Then we'll do 2 teaspoons of miso paste. I don't think it matters what kind, but use some light miso like me if you're worried about it. Then we're going to do 2 tablespoons of Gravy Master. This is going to add a little flavor, but it's mostly for color. You can also use Kitchen Bouquet or any browning sauce, but it's totally optional. So for the beef marinade, that is basically it. All we need to do now is add this to our soy curls in a pan and reduce it down. This can take anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes or even longer. Just stir it around every now and again, and once it looks like the liquid is all reduced, you are done. And you might be wondering, won't this make them soggy? Well, in short, no. It will make them juicy, but they're going to still have a nice chew, especially the longer you cook them. You can store these in the fridge or freezer and use them later as you see fit. Oh, and it's also worth noting that you can chop these up even finer for a different texture and use them in something like a meat sauce for pasta too. Lots of possibilities. And while they're good as is, they are also neutral enough that you can season them with just about anything you like. I've made vegan carne asada, shawarma, beef stew, literally anything you want. And all these recipes will be on my blog. I'll link them in the description. Also, this is totally optional, but I've recently added an ad-free option on my blog. I've also set up a private Discord so we can all talk about things vegan food and whatnot. So if you're so inclined, please join the Burger Buddy community, and thank you for your support. Now for the soy curl chicken, like I said, we're going to rehydrate it in some vegan chicken broth to infuse some flavor. And I also like the Better Than Bouillon for this, but there are a lot of others out there that will work too. Other than that, it's the same as the beef. Squeeze it out, toast it in a pan, and rehydrating in the broth will add a little flavor, but in order to make these super delicious, we're going to whip up a marinade as well. We'll start off with a 1/3 cup of vegan mayo as well as a 1/3 cup of neutral or mild flavored oil. For low oil option, you can use vegan yogurt, and I also have a no oil recipe that I'm going to show you later as well. Next, we'll do a tablespoon of miso paste, 1 tablespoon of nooch, aka nutritional yeast, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder as well as 1 teaspoon of onion powder, a half teaspoon each of dried thyme and dried parsley, about 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, and then we're going to whisk that up. And I usually need to add 1 to 2 tablespoons of water to loosen it up a bit, then just taste and adjust for seasoning, and our marinade is done. Like I said, this is a big batch, but we're going to pour that over our soy curls and then with clean hands toss to coat, and you can store these as is and just cook some when you need it. But we just need to grill these in a pan over medium to medium high heat until we get some nice browning on them. And this shouldn't take too long either, so it's great for a quick meal. Now you might be asking 2 questions. 1, why don't we marinate the soy curl beef like this? Well, I actually do marinate them like this for something like my chipotle steak quesadilla, which is one of my favorite recipes. But for the steak, even when I don't marinate it, I do like to cook it in some oil to get it to brown a bit too. The other question you might be asking is, why can't we cook the soy curl chicken the same way we did the beef for a no oil option? Well, I was wondering that myself, so I tested it out. I rehydrated them in water and then squeezed them out, made a reducing sauce with 2 cups of the vegan chicken broth, 1 tablespoon of nutritional yeast, 1 teaspoon of garlic and onion powder, a half teaspoon of dried thyme and parsley, and 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. Basically the same as the marinade minus the mayo, oil, and miso paste. Then I simply reduced them down in the broth like I did the soy curl beef. And this was good, and it's a great option if you're trying to avoid a lot of oil, but to be honest, it's just simply not as good as the marinated soy curl chicken in my opinion. But that said, it's still super delicious and a great low oil option if that's your thing. Now, like I said, you can totally make a big batch and freeze these for later too. I would suggest flash freezing if possible for like 30 minutes, but either way, you're going to want to add them to a freezer safe container and they're going to be good for up to 3 months. Just thaw overnight in the fridge, or you can even microwave them to thaw as well. Then you can just whip up a single portion as you need and make whatever you want. Like I said, I have all the recipes up on my blog, so please take a gander if you're so inclined, and I'll see you all next time.